Hi everyone, in today's video I wanted to talk about something really important that happened in the last sitting week, which I didn't get time to talk about in my last video, which is that the government put forward a bill which it said was about fulfilling an election promise, and that promise was to make sure that people who were under the influence of a drug, alcohol or other drugs at the time that they commit a crime would no longer have the ability to have that state of mind taken into account when they went to the courts or when they faced charges for that crime, faced consequences for that crime. Now, you might say that's very well and good, that people who are under the influence of drugs shouldn't have the ability to have that taken into account or use that as an excuse when they go to the courts or when they get punishment for that crime. And to a large extent, you'd be right, I'd agree with that. But unfortunately, it's not always as simple as that. You see, the way this particular bill was drafted, it talked about people being wholly or partially affected by drugs or alcohol at the time of their offence, losing that ability to have that taken into account. Now, this means that even if you have, let's say, just one cone at the time that you commit your offence, if there's just one cone of cannabis in your system, you could lose that ability to have any other factors around your mental state taken into account. And both the Law Society and the Royal College of Psychiatrists were very concerned about this, because this could mean that people with a pre-existing mental health condition, let's say schizophrenia, who might have one glass of wine, let's say, or one cone, to go back to that example, and then commit an offence because of their schizophrenia, because they're not in control of their actions because of an active psychotic episode, could lose the ability to have any consideration of their mental state at the time that that offence was committed, just because they had a small amount of drug in their system. Now, if the reason that they committed their offence was because of their active mental illness, that is not right. And so Dignity Party put forward an amendment to strike out that part of the bill, because we didn't like it the way it was drafted, and we were concerned that it could capture people who were not actively under the influence of drugs, but actively mentally unwell and who needed support. Unfortunately, that's not the amendment that got through. That part of the bill is still in there. However, what did get through was a Liberal amendment to make sure that it had to be proven that the offence was substantially caused by the use of drugs or alcohol, as opposed to any other factor in that person's mental state. And while this isn't our amendment, we're pleased to see this compromise reached. Because yes, people who are substantially under the influence of their own choosing of alcohol and other drugs, and who commit an offence for no other reason other than being under the influence of alcohol and other drugs, should absolutely face the full consequence of the law. However, people who are not substantially affected by drugs but may be substantially affected by another reason, like their impaired mental state because of a mental illness, deserve our support and deserve to have that considered when facing consequences for that crime committed. Ultimately, we are not here just to blindly legislate the election promises of the government. We are here as a whole, as a parliament made up of multiple parties, to ensure that we get the best outcomes for everyone in our community. I am glad that by working with the Liberal opposition, Dignity Party has managed to lead the charge in making sure that that does happen in regard to this bill. We must continue to work together to get the best outcomes for everyone in our community, and we must continue to be tough on crime without being tough on people who are already vulnerable and who need the help of the government and the community. Thank you.